how to predict market moves before they actually happen. So, you guys know that I'm a big technical analysis guy. I mainly focus on what's going on in the charts, and I base my trades a lot on what I'm seeing on the charts here. If you guys are new to my channel, that's what you guys should know about me. And if you guys have been following my channel, you guys should know that's no surprise. Now, what are we gonna make of this major crypto pullback here? And was there any way to actually have seen this coming? Now, I did bring up the idea of bearish divergences, basically are RSI signals, right? Which is a very simple and effective indicator that I have been mentioning. That there are bearish signals on the monthly time frame, weekly time frame, 3 day time frame, and daily time frame. Okay. And however, there has been exceptions where bulls have invalidated those bearish signals. Not this time, at least not on some of these lower time frames, at least. And that's why I think we're seeing this pullback right now. I'll bring you guys to the charts later, but I also want to be mentioning that we're going to be talking about Anchor Network, ANKR, Scale Network, which is SKL, as well as I always forget the third one here. Okay, I have a short memory. It's gonna be DIA, and see what's going on in these markets. What are their updated setups and price targets since the last time I've talked about them? We're also going to be taking a look into some major economics and crypto news that could affect the markets. So let's go ahead and get into the news first, and then we're going to dive into the charts. All right, first piece here is going to be by Crypto Potato. Is the bull cycle nearing its top? Here's what major Bitcoin NUPL metric says. I don't know about the NUPL, but you know that so my major indicator in measuring the bull cycle top is going to be the RSI. If we actually take a look into the RSI on the monthly time frame and compare it to previous bull cycles back in 2021 and 2017, you guys can see that the monthly RSI reading is still nowhere near those levels at above an RSI reading of over 90. Now, does it have to get over 90 for this bull cycle? No. But I'm just using those as data references. And is there anything telling me otherwise yet? I don't think so. So that is still my thesis here. So still don't think we're near a bull cycle top right now. Next piece here is going to be by The Block. Crypto liquidations hit $1 billion after hotter than expected PPI inflation shock. Yeah, so I heard about the PPI report getting released today. And then the metric that I am looking at will still be the CME watch tool, the Fed watch tool. Okay. This has been very accurate for the past couple of years. I've been using this in predicting a Fed rate cut. And after today's PPI report that was dropped, we basically went from I think almost maybe 99.9%. I mentioned that yesterday on a Fed rate cut in September to still right now at about 92%. So yeah, it did have we did have a significant almost a 10% decrease in the probability of a Fed rate cuts, but we're still overwhelmingly in favor of a Fed rate cut at this time. Of course, this could change as new data comes out, as new events unfold, but this is what I'm paying attention to, and that is going to be a major event. Okay, Fed rate cuts will fuel risk on assets and pump these risk on assets like stocks, like crypto. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. This is by The Block. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent says government won't buy Bitcoin for strategic reserves, but will retain seized assets as crypto markets cease red. I think this is something to be probably looking more into if you guys have time. I'm not going to get too much into details. I've seen some headlines that tied this that says that ties the fact that the government won't buy any more Bitcoin for strategic reserve to this dip here. But we're also seeing a dip in the stock market S&P 500 as well earlier this morning. So I mean, there's gonna be correlation between. I mean, so I don't think it is the fact that the government is not buying Bitcoin is the news or catalyst to this dip. I think there has been correlation with stock market, and I think both have been running pretty hot and could use a little bit of a cool down before the next move up. All right, next piece here is going to be by Crypto Potato. This is it says ADA, which is Cardano, rockets to 5-month peak. Bitcoin price corrects after latest all-time highs. Market watch. Yeah, so I am seeing ADA trying to break out of a bearish triangle pattern, and it's going to be very bullish if ADA or Cardano is able to do that. I'm going to be doing a separate video on Cardano later today, so make sure to be tuning in for that video, right? But this is basically what I'm seeing. Yeah, Cardano could be on the verge of a bullish breakout out of a bearish pattern, which is a big deal. All right, let's come over here to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still very important. I don't trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin because it is still the driver of this market. If it dumps, as we are seeing today, that could still dump your altcoins. Okay. However, if Bitcoin has more room to run, very good for the altcoins. I've been talking about the fact that Bitcoin broke above its previous all-time highs at about that 110K level. That's going to be that's very important because it broke out of a pattern that was a you know at the resistance of 110K. That was also the resistance of a cup and handle pattern on this weekly time frame. Price target for that pattern is going to be about 145K. I think Bitcoin is still going to get higher than that during this bull cycle based on the RSI reading on the monthly time frame. If we actually take a look into the monthly time frame here, this is what I'm referring to. We're still here. Okay, we're still at about 73, which is slightly overbought. But if we actually take a look at the previous RSI readings to the peaks of the previous bull cycles, we're still nowhere near that. Okay, so this is basically what I'm basing my idea of a bull cycle peak on. Like I said, it doesn't have to reach those levels, but I need something to tell me otherwise, right? And we still do have bearish divergence on this monthly time frame, which could still indicate a pullback on the monthly time frame, but there has been exceptions, particularly in major breakouts, like back in December 2020, October 2017, even November of last year. So let's see how these bearish divergences play out. We are at some major support levels, including the daily 21 SMA, right, at about 117. Next level down would be the daily 50 SMA at about 115. I have actually bought into a Ethereum position just today after this dip, at this dip. Okay, a leverage position. Okay, so I am long on this market. I am looking to take a short-term profit. And given all those mixed signals that we have on the higher time frames, like the monthly time frame, weekly time frame, I am going to be more proactive in taking profits, right? And buying back at better positions or at lower positions or lower price levels. Of course, these are just my opinions and not financial advice. You got to do your own research. I am long on Bitcoin and quite a bit of the altcoins here, so my opinion on this market is still bullish, and I'll tell you guys when I change my opinion and why, which is probably more important. Now, if we actually come back down to the daily time frame here, okay, yesterday it looked like we had a cup and handle breakout, but that basically fell way short, right? If you guys actually take a look here, The breakout would have been about 123.5. That was a fake out. Okay, so when you see breakouts, it's not going to be 100% going towards its price targets. There's going to be scenarios like this, like a fake out, as we have seen quite a bit actually already, if you guys have been following this channel. Now, what I'm thinking here is that it's very important for Bitcoin to break above this upward trend line here. Otherwise, it could form a rising wedge pattern, which is a bearish pattern. Okay, I'm estimating the bottom trend line here for the rising wedge pattern. Okay, if Bitcoin does not break out of this upward trend line here. So let's see what Bitcoin does. It's very important to be paying attention to Bitcoin right now. It is on some major support levels. It could form a bearish pattern. However, there is, if it actually forms that bearish pattern and breaks out of it, that's very bullish for Bitcoin. So very important to be paying attention to Bitcoin right now. Let's go ahead and take a look into ANKR network and see what's been happening with ANKR. ANKR network here, currently trading about 1.5, 1.6 cents about. Since the last time I've talked about it, I talked about a falling wedge pattern on the daily time frame. Okay, price target for this falling wedge pattern was about 1.8 cents. I think ANKR network basically almost reached there at about 1.7 cents. Okay, let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see what it could be doing. 6 hour time frame, there is a double bottom, right? Double bottom, which are usually bullish. Now, the uh, the resistance here for double bottom, the neckline for this double bottom is going to be about 1.75 cents roughly. There is possible bullish divergence on the 6 hour time frame, so let's see how it plays out. Now, price target for this double bottom pattern would be about 1.9 cents. Price target are estimates only, right? There could be more or there could be less. Very important to be paying attention to the overall markets and, of course, Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin dumps, these altcoin setups are not going to matter as much. Excuse me for the dog. Okay. All right, so let's come over here to the weekly time frame. I just wanna point out weekly time frame for ANKR. This huge falling wedge pattern is still on. Okay, if it breaks out by this point here, let's just say for example, price target would be about 10.5 cents. That is still a valid pattern. Let's see which way this pattern breaks. Of course, falling wedge usually breaks to the upside, but there's still a small chance it breaks to the downside. Just got to consider that. Let's go over here to Scale Network, SKL, see what's happening in this market. I haven't talked about Scale Network for the past couple of years. Okay, weekly time frame here. Weekly time frame here. Scale network, falling wedge pattern, probably the most common pattern you guys should be training your eyes to see because it is the most common pattern on any time frame, in my opinion. It usually tells you after a extensive downtrend on that time frame that it's likely to be breaking back out to the upside. Hey, stop. All right, so price targets for here for the scale network, it's already trying to break out here. Okay, price target, you take the opening of the pattern and it's going to give you a price target of about 14 cents. Okay, some major resistance along the way, which would include the weekly 200 SMA at about 6.7 cents. And that is a downward sloping moving average, in addition to being a huge moving average. So potential pullback at that moving average there as resistance. Now let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get any more clarity on what Scale Network is trying to do. Now on this daily time frame, obviously today is the breakout for SKL. Very important to see if SKL can actually close, get a solid candle close above this upper trend line and hold that upper trend line as supports to get a better idea if it will get, if this breakout will continue going, right? All right, let's go ahead and go to DIA, see what's going on in this market. So since the last time I talked about DIA here, what has been happening? I talked about a on the daily time frame. Okay, so on the weekly time frame, I talked about potential cup and handle pattern if DIA comes back up here to $1.35 to retest this resistance that happened about October last year. Okay, that is a possible scenario. Still too early to say it's not a developed cup and handle, but I talked about this falling wedge pattern again on the daily time frame. Price target for this falling wedge pattern would be about $1.13. Dia broke out and reached about $1.04 before getting rejected here. Um, so let's see what it does, right? It's trying to, what are some key support levels to be paying attention to? So it is basically, it has basically broken through the daily 21 SMA and the 12-hour moving averages. The next key support I'll be looking at will really be the daily 50 SMA at about currently at about 64 cents right now. So let's see if Dia can actually continue towards that price target because it is still valid, because the price action is still above this upper trend line here, and it hasn't reached that price target. There is a potential cup and handle pattern if Dia actually comes back up here to reach about $1.22 resistance with that rounded bottom trajectory. So this is basically what I'm seeing for these altcoins as well as the more macro crypto markets. Very important to be paying attention to this right now. Let me know if you want to continue seeing any more of these coins, Dia, ANKR, Scale Network, or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.